This is the Extensionists, Conversations with Great Thinkers in Agriculture. I'm Toban Dyck.
And I'm Whetter.
Most of the technologies, for example, we're talking about, did not arise in ag. They arose in medicine,
military,
defense, exactly. And not even in Canada. So
I was at the World Agritech Innovation Summit in San Francisco in March, and there was this, there was a big venture capital investor named Vinod Khosla, if I got his name right. Anyway, he said the most important innovations in an industry come from people outside that industry. And it kind of fits perfectly with what you were just saying, Daryl. And I think within agriculture, I think it's really exciting to bring in outside thinking in terms of, making us looking at old problems in new ways. Yeah, I think that's critical.
I agree.
I think there's a particular usefulness to that approach now in the area of agricultural research because, for better or worse, most of our institutions that have traditionally conducted agricultural research, their gaze has turned to the upstream. And so they are attempting to solve the big problems. And that has left a vacuum or a gap in who's trying to solve the today problems behind the farm gate. Right. We'll get to that. But if you're trying to figure out how to, reduce emissions by making other crops fix nitrogen, or if you're trying to make a crop ultra nutritious, for a given population, you don't necessarily need an agricultural. You need the best chemist and biochemist and bioinformatics person you can find wherever they come from. And I think that's important that we're open to that.
Yeah,
I mean, Toban's more into AI than I am. I think a revolution in AI as a tool to predict the weather, or just make general better farm decisions, because it can. I mean, if the algorithm is written properly, can see things from the data that we can't see with the naked eye, so to speak. And I think that's going to be a bigger part of our decision making.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I it's a great topic to broach because the people that I talk with, I think there's a bit of a consensus that maybe we haven't paid enough attention, to what AI is capable of. I think we can say that an AI can basically replace what we're doing here right now.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
So these independent agrologists, for example, they might be very interested in what these tools can do. But there's a whole kind of system that almost needs to be set up within the commercial realm for these things to come to market, be evaluated, be field tested, be adopted, and that is complex.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting to see. But I think we do need to spend more time learning. And again, it's a complex thing. Yeah. And so far, what we see in our industry in agriculture are black boxes. And they come in, you push this button and it will do this for you. Trust us. Yeah. And that's where our culture says, I don't know. So some kind of better transparency and understanding. And again, that's a role for extension.
Yeah. So it's interesting. A couple of things are interesting about that. One of them with AI. So you see a lot of extension kind of being done in that sphere, right? Like a lot of conference speakers are talking about AI and which is great. It's important now because it's a huge topic. But I think it ties into what we're talking about, because what are the thresholds of what's successful extension? Because I'm not, no matter how many times I hear somebody talk about it, I'm not going to get it entirely, right? Like I'm not going to understand what those algorithms are really doing, or what kind of work went into creating them. So when we get, even in the egg stuff, if you get someone talking about, say, gene editing or something really complicated for say for me or whoever else, what are the thresholds of success for something like that? Like, I'm not going to get it like he or she gets it, but what is that passable kind of D grade level of
it has to progress the solution to the problem noticeably. And I think where things are now, like the cost structure is such that the progress needs to be pretty substantial.
No one wants to pay $5 for a $5 solution.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll pay you $5, but I want a $50 solution.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And I think the marker of success too is that it's also attending to some pretty critical problems, or like the term wicked problem. Those are the best things for, I think, if AI can help us sort through
wicked problems.
If those can be solved, that's to me what we really should be. There are other problems.
For instance, matching. I'm just thinking a wicked problem. We talked about our. This is before the podcast today, Daryl, but I'm going to come back to that. So we've got a growing season, lengthening growing season on the prairies, but we're still using our old approaches. So are we missing an opportunity to work within this new growing season? And do we really need to totally rethink? Maybe it comes back to winter crops again, which we by and large are not using on the prairies. Is it planting earlier or planting later to take advantage of a long fall? Is it a completely different cropping mix? To me, that's a wicked problem. Like, are we not taking advantage of our current growing situation?
I think it's something that will be, in hindsight, we can say. It's always hard to say that that's happening now. But I think you're on pretty solid ground by saying there's a potential for that to happen if we're not open to some of the solutions and ideas that can be generated, recognizing the reality of an extended growing season, and being open to change. The word pivot is used a lot these days, but how do you gain the confidence to actually make that pivot when so much is at stake? If you've sown your crop on the 15th of May and had success over and over and over again, what will actually make you pull the trigger and say, I'm waiting until June 1st because I know fall's going to go till well into October. I think we're in that phase of just exploring that area. So it's in the realm of the hypothetical. Well, to me, models are a great way to examine the hypothetical with low risk, and say what would happen if we did that. And we've got the capability between the physiologists and the computer people, the analytical tools that we have. We can do a lot of that, and put an extension person in there to interpret it, and we could probably start looking, Jay, at some of these alternative practices in a more meaningful way, perhaps.
And I think that coming back to that third party, because this is all so new, and there seems to be all these different people trying to tell us something. We need the trust to be there in order for this adoption to happen. So we need a trusted third-party person. And I actually mentioned this a week ago to somebody. I said, we almost need, we have these crop advisors. We almost need a tech advisor. A farmer can pay, tell me what tech I need to use, because it's becoming such a critically important part of the farming business.
Well, and it's become a very busy landscape as well.
With everyone trying to sell you something.
Lots of pressure.
Yeah.
Right. Lots of pressure to adopt tech at every turn.
Well,
Sure.
The best agency or the best source of advice, to grow winter canola, because the paradigm has shifted weather-wise on the farm, it is probably not the winter canola seed company.
Yeah.
I mean, they will try and do that, but their cause and the farmer's cause would be helped by an objective analysis of that opportunity.
And it has to, I mean, with any agronomy decision, it comes down to odds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna grow winter canola and it's going to fail and then give up.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe you need to try it on one field for 3 or 5 years to get a true, and then learn your skills along the ways. Anyway, I'm not saying winter canola is the answer.
No,
but I mean, winter crops, winter wheat. I mean, we know it can work on the prairies. Winter kill's an issue, but I just think that, I mean, those are just examples. I know, Daryl, you're just giving an example, but yeah.
Well, it's I think that type of risk, that level of risk, is something that a whole bunch of different kinds of farmers are willing to. Yeah. I mean, they do it all the time. Mm-hmm. The question is it informed risk? And I think there's a public and a private interest in ensuring that it's informed risk.
Yeah. This has been a Burr Forest Group production. We also want to thank the people you don't see.
We're here, we're chatting away with our guests, but there's tons of people who work behind the scenes to make this podcast happen.
Ryan Sanchi is our director.
Ashley Robinson is the coordinator.
And Abby Wall is our producer and editor.